So welcome to the final panel of day one at CGX Montreal. Jillian, you have put together an amazing conference, so take a little credit. The team is fabulous too, but let's cut to the chase because we only have a little amount of time and we have, I think, a lot of insight to share. So today we're going to talk about starting a game studio, something that hopefully some people in the crowd have done or are thinking of doing or have already gotten over. These are, I would dare say, some expert opinions. I've had the pleasure of speaking with some of these devs before. They have a lot of information and insight to share, so we're going to cut right to it. Let's quickly start. I'll pass the mic. Just quickly introduce yourself, name, studio, and maybe the game that you're either working on or that you're best known for.
So my name is Guillaume Provost. I've worked for independent game studio companies for 22 years. The name of my studio is Compulsion Games. We're 44 people currently working on We Had a Few.
Hi, my name is Jongwoo Kim. I've been working at these studios for more or less about 6-7 years or so. So Kitfox Games is best known for Moon Hunters, but we just recently announced the game called Clever Endeavour Games.
Hi everyone, my name is Julian Morada. I'm the CEO and Minister of Creation at Norsfell. I co-founded the studio in 2013. We're a team of 12 people now, focusing on creating original content. We're backed by Execution Labs, Fondation Montreal laureate, I know that he's here, and sponsored by Google. Our games have been downloaded almost to 1 million times now. And we've earned pretty numerous awards when we were going, so including a prestigious nomination at Gamescom for Best Mobile Game, and recently a first win at the Ubisoft Indie Series contest. We're currently working on 2 titles, one Ragnar Cycle, that's the code name, coming out in Q1 next year, and the other one is Tribes of Midgard, which hasn't been announced. It's a community survival game for PC and consoles.
Hi everyone, Richard Atlas, my name is Richard Atlas, and I'm the business guy, CEO, sort of into design, a bunch of other stuff at Clever Endeavour Games. We have a game called Ultimate Chicken Horse, which is where the CEO gets started. And we started our company in early 2015. We became an actual company. The game launched on Steam in March 2016. Right now we're working on big new updates and bringing the game to console, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch at some point in the fall, winter, as soon as possible.
Hi everyone, I'm Jillian Mood. I'm the owner of Jillian Mood Partners. So I started my company about 2 years ago. I have a team of about 6, and we do HR and PR and marketing for a variety of game studios, which is a blast, and we run the CGX events as well. Some of our clients include Carmen Interactive, Sound Camera, and we're working on Betty and the Ink Machine right now, which is super fun. So yeah, happy to be here, obviously. Why I organized it. She had no choice. So hold on to the mic, because I'll get you guys to pass it. So I'm really curious, what made you decide to start a studio? There's lots of ways to break into GameDev. Why do it all on your own? This one's really easy for me. It's because I was always in positions working in studios, you know, an HR director or handling PR or doing partnerships. I always felt like I could have, in my position, could have made better decisions or could have done things differently that would have been more successful for my client, for the industry, whatnot. So I actually didn't like answering to people that I thought were making great decisions. And so it came to a point where I was like, I know what I should be doing. And so I actually kind of tested it out a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, like trust your instincts. So it became just a situation of I didn't want to have a boss that I thought wasn't making good decisions.
I have an equally simple but very different route. So my feeling was I wanted to get into making games. I'm not good at programming. I'm not good enough at art. So what do you do when you can't do anything else? You throw together a studio. Essentially, my feeling was that I was always good at organizing things. I've grown up in a businessy background. My family's into that, and so it's something that that I was always interested in, and sort of came more naturally. And my thought was that I wanted to get into this creative design part of the games industry. But the most important thing that I could contribute to directly was the business side. So I found people who were awesome at what they do. Tyler, who's here, and Alex, our programmer, who are both amazing at what they do, and we threw together a studio like that.
I'm a bit like Richard. I So
Yeah.
I suck at drawing and coding, but holding a bachelor's degree in communication from Belgium and moving to Montreal to study game design, then I wanted to, well, first of all, work in the industry to learn a bit more about all the processes and really being on the floor. So I did that for 3.5 years, first at a company called ODD1, and then to Ludia. And while we were working for those companies, I met some amazing people and decided to start working on personal projects with them while working in the company. So we would stay typically after 7 p.m. on Wednesday until maybe 1 a.m. in the morning every week working on personal projects. And the CEO was okay with that, so I was thanking for that. But in the end, what we did was release the first title with an indie label. That took a 1.5 years to make. The game can be finished in about 10 minutes. So yeah, that's just for comparison. And in terms of money, it just wasn't enough revenue to pay for the pizza we had eaten for a 1.5 years. But the important was that we had learned to work together, and I knew that these guys were rock solid. So when the opportunity arose with execution labs they were looking for companies to invest in, we came to them and we said, well, we've already released a game as a team. We did the whole process of not just starting it, but actually shipping the thing. Plus, we're co-workers, we've worked together for many years, and they invested in the company, and that's how we started, basically.
So my story is kind of the opposite of Jillian's, I guess. So as I mentioned, I was working for other indie studios like for 2-3 years, and then the opportunity that Julian mentioned, like Execution Labs, arose. And so basically, the co-founders of Kitfox Games never really knew each other prior to the opportunity. And in fact, we wouldn't have come together at all if it weren't for like the strong developer community here. So like you guys might know, like MRGS, Montreal Game Society. Through that network, various members of the team were formed. I actually joined a bit later in the stage because I was actually in a different team at Execution Labs at the time, and then yeah. So like, my story is a bit more complicated even. And so I guess like the funny thing for me is that I'm reminded of JS's talk from earlier and like about like opportunity being a key thing. I'm not sure if Kitfox would exist without that opportunity having been there.
Yeah, Execution Labs is really been behind a lot of huge studios, so it's a great starting point for a lot of them. And Guillaume?
I was convinced there was no future in independent game development. In 2008, actually just around back in 2008, the digital, social, and mobile didn't really exist. And I had a really long talk with my boss at Arcane at the time. I said, this is really bad. We're fighting to get shelf space. So for the last 8 years, from 2008, being independent meant doubling in size on every project so that you could make a project that was big enough to get a slot on the shelf at Walmart. So I had some pretty dark views about starting in that studio. And then I was approached by a conglomerate in Taiwan to say, hey, we're looking for someone to start a studio in Montreal for us. We've got $4 million, great salary, and we're giving you a quarter of the shares. So I flew up to Taiwan. I said, wow, this sounds really good. And I signed the papers. And I packed everything and waited for my wife to have her second child for us to move.
Oh my God. That's like one of the emails you get. If you just won $10 million. So it was in 2008. I think someone asked the question, what happened in 2008 earlier today? Does anybody remember the answer? Financial crisis.
Financial crisis. So on the day my second child was born, I went back home to get a towel, not a towel, but a cover, and I got the email that there was no more money. And I think this comes back to a lot of other stories that we heard today. We started a studio when the project got canceled, and we started the studio when we all got fired. People assume you're really courageous to start a studio, but in a lot of cases, it's a different kind of opportunity, which is, oh fuck, what do I do now? Which in my case came to, fuck it, let's do it anyways, but with no money. So.
Excellent. So we all know it's a volatile market, and there's risk involved in any sort of independent opportunity that you're going to pursue. But I'm wondering what you felt was the biggest challenge to starting your own studio. And the answer can be money, that's fine. But I'm wondering if there was maybe a more personal challenge, or maybe you had family who weren't on board. I'm just wondering what you felt was sort of the hardest part about either making that decision or actually setting up the studio and getting it started.
Sir, could you clarify the question again?
Sure. So there's a lot of different challenges that
Oh, right.
to starting a studio. It could be financial, it could be having a workspace, it could be the team. But I'm wondering what you felt was the most challenging aspect, and I guess flip side of that question is what do you think other people should be looking at the most?
So I think the vision of the company is critical. And so the funny thing for Kitfox is that there's no singular game that we aspire to make. Like it's not like we set out to build up to this next title or anything like that. And there isn't a particular platform we want to develop on. So fundamentally, there was this a very pragmatic sense of we want to make the things that we want, and that might change this year to the next. And we don't want to be bound to working on this particular thing for a long time either. So and in that regard, we looked at ourselves it just examined what we really want to do many times, and I feel like we generally just adapted to the situation. And to some extent that's a strength, but other times it can be very disheartening. It can be it takes courage to just move forward with something.
I would have 2 points principally. The first one being that making a game or running a project and running a business is they're two completely different things. So being from the industry, we knew how to make games, but knowing how to run a business was entirely different. It was a huge learning curve there. In terms of even knowing what are tax credits, how do I apply to get this thing, or how do I do hiring, or how do I pitch my project, how do I network, who are these people in this room, and this kind of thing, being introduced to that world of mingling, of networking, of having your name out there, of selling your product is extremely different and extremely tough at the beginning because you don't know where you are, you don't know anything about it. So first, that was one of the major challenges. The other one being that we choose right from the start to be a mobile free-to-play company. We're branching out a bit now, but that's in the DNA of the company. And the free-to-play mobile market is extremely tough, so we had to, we knew that we were going to structure the company more as a startup, and that the first few years would be probably a loss. We would need to learn a lot and also establish processes, pipelines and stuff, so that we would be able to, in the end, achieve a game that would be profitable. So yeah, when you know that from the beginning, we had the funding from execution lab, so the first year was fine, then you run out on your first year of funding, and then you have 2 or 3 more years to cover, and this is the hard part for the runway. So for us, we struggle a bit there. We try to get some local hire, get money from the CMF and stuff, and only now, after almost 4 years, we're at the point when we were able to hire sufficient people, hire almost senior level people that would be able to afford in order to make a game that finally has the potential to be a success. And we just signed with a major publisher, something that we wouldn't have been able to do when we started.
So I don't have one specific good challenge to talk about, but I kind of want to flip the question a little bit. And one of the things that helped us a lot was our support systems, and that also on a personal level, we were able to, 2 of us were able to still live at home when we started the company. We worked in Kyler's kitchen for a while. We had the support of our families to be able to do that. Also, on a more company level, we had the support from the Montreal industry. Like Julian was talking about, what the heck's a tax credit? Well, those kind of things we learned through talking to other people in the industry. And so that was one of the things that avoided us having any major issues that I can point to directly was the fact that really there's such a good support system here. And if you use it, and I went to actually all of these people before I even started the company and asked, what the heck am I doing? How do you do this? How do you do this? So, yeah, that's sort of my question.
question. Like, I've been thinking a lot about this recently. My challenge with starting my own company was internal. So when I started my company, it kind of happened naturally. You know, I made an indie connection, and it was a group of developers, and they were starting a studio. And they said, oh, crap, we don't have marketing, and we don't know how to hire, and we don't know how to write a press release, and we don't know how to form partnerships. And I was like, oh, I can do all that, no problem. And so it went really well, and so I kind of formed this indie startup package. And within the first month, I had 7 studios saying, we would love help with all of these things. And so I was lucky that I had a service that people wanted. There was low overhead, it was just time. My challenge was actually leaving my day job and giving my new company my full attention, which for a full year, I worked a full-time job and ran my company. When that year, I really should have stepped away and focused on it, but it was self-doubt or that security. And so when I finally let that go, things started going much better, and I was, you know, I had work-life balance, and I had more confidence with my clients instead of being pulled in different directions. So it was an internal challenge that took me a year to deal with and overcome. And now I'm like, I did that long ago, but yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. I think for a lot of independent, whether you're an entrepreneur, you have this space or another one, that's sort of the big leap that you have to take. And you have the courage, you have the focus, going with people who know what they're doing. All of that, I think, can help. Did you? Yep. He said time to say.
I think it's more a question of deciding what I'm willing to share in public or not.
Always the road.
I had different challenges at different stages of the company. The company's 9 years now, so it has changed quite a bit through that time. I think at the beginning, the biggest challenge is that I was the only shareholder in the company. And during that time, I went through divorce, my father's death, launching on the hardware of the PS4 and Sony. I think those happened like within 6 months. And the realization that without a partner at the office, I needed to find a way to personally cope with all the different things that are happening to me in my life at that time. And it turned out quite okay because the company became a support network, and I learned how to realize that I don't need to always be right, always be secure, and always be perfect in my job. I think that was one of the biggest turning points for us when we shipped contracts and moved on to We Happy Few. We've struggled with defining culture until we understood that there's no one way to make a game company that works. I've seen everything. I've seen my way or the highway. I've seen everybody does whatever the fuck they want. The only common thing of the companies that I've seen that work is that everyone that works there drinks the type of Kool-Aid that they need to drink there. So hire the people that work well within your culture. Yep.
Yes, culture really important. Thank you. That was very brief. And I think, again, it speaks to something that a lot of people maybe don't always want to talk about publicly, but the fact that we have so much going on in our own lives, and when you're starting a company, your attention is going to be split, and a lot of us just suck it up and deal with it. It took 9 years, you said, to kind of figure it out and feel, like you said, a little bit better. I guess we talked a little bit about mistakes made in terms of lack of focus, or maybe just sort of early on, I didn't know any better. I'm wondering if there's any mistakes that you've made in your early studio days that you're willing to admit to that might be enlightening for other people. A specific mistake that maybe you, in hindsight, would never make again. Something that you learned along the way.
Keeping people I shouldn't have. It's complicated because when you start, you don't have a lot of money, and you don't have big titles to put behind you to attract talent. So sometimes you make do with the talent that you can attract at that point, and that can lead on some people staying on your team for far longer than they should have. And it's funny because it's a lesson that I thought I had learned many times over before starting my company, but circumstances always drive you to repeat mistakes of the past. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake on my part.
I don't know if this is a mistake necessarily, as much as like a choice and like a consequence that I see in our company. We tend to rush things, I think. Like there is like this pressure to ship. So again, so the priorities for us is lifestyle first. So like having high morale in the team is the like absolute highest priority. Second is making sure the survival of the studio. And so we don't want to move the ship date usually. So as a but we have a like very strong like anti-crunch culture as well. So we're not crunching, we're not moving the ship date. And so if something doesn't work out, like especially if we're doing something complicated, that means like there's a lot of stress about what to do at that point in time. And the default choice has been just do the best we can and ship anyway. And I'm like there's obvious consequences to that. I think in retrospect, in many cases, we could have waited a bit longer and polished that before launching. But at the same time, you know, we've survived this far. The team morale is high, so at some level, like mission accomplished, right? Depending on what you want to do. And so, like, I guess I'm just moving forward now that we're much more financially secure than we were in our first 2 years. Maybe we could take a bit longer with each project. Maybe we can stay in pre-pro longer and figure things out better.
For us, it would be the fact that since we're creating IPs all the time, new titles, new universe. Once you start investing in that, it's extremely expensive, and when you start as a company, it's even more expensive because you have to innovate to stand out on the market. And innovation is one of the most expensive things possible. It's much easier to take a game, risking it, and then ship it, rather than coming up with a new concept and making sure that all your mechanics work together correctly. So one of the mistakes we made was to jump from project to project too quickly. So we would focus on something for a year and then ship it as a free-to-play, and then try to update it a bit, and then we would move on to another project and do that again. But like looking back at it, there are some games that we should never have made, I think. We should have better focused on the existing titles and trying to leverage the IP we had building and adding more to it. At the end of the day, it's extremely hard to say if this move was a good move or not. In our case, I'm looking at a game we made called Pogo Chief, the ultimate Pogo stick experience, which is super different from what we usually do. We usually do beach multiplayer games with a huge architecture. We made it because Apple wanted content with the Apple TV, and so that was the idea behind it. But it took us 4 months. It's not that bad, but still, it's hard now looking at it back. And maybe because we did this game, we had a contract with Calypso to work on Erlang Tycoon, for instance. So maybe because they saw the quirky visual of this game and not the other game that was a bit more hardcore, we got a contract. So it's super hard to know if it was a good move or not. But now, moving forward, we're really trying to put all of our energy in one IP at a time. And even if it's a disaster at launch, I want to be able to focus on it at least 6 months or 10 or 12 months after it, so that we give it a chance and keep on refining it.
I was going to interrupt and say, I hope you weren't on Pogo Chief. I did it's a good game. It's great. So for us, or for me, but also for us, I think the biggest thing was communication. So when we launched our game March 2016 on PC, it was the first time working together. One of the things that happened was there was a disconnect between me being more the business marketing side and pushing all that stuff, and the actual production. I was in the production, but I wasn't as in as I thought. And I think communication between us, between me and only 2 other people, right? But still, that communication, exactly, and that communication wasn't quite there. So I was sort of like, okay, so we're gonna launch this time, and the response was, yeah, okay. And I didn't recognize that as needing to dig deeper and say, okay, like, what is actually holding us back? How long is it going to take? And on the other side, the communication wasn't there telling me, whoa, wait a second, we'll do it when we're ready. And we're, starting to run out of money and so on. So there were some pressures there. But I think the biggest issue there was the communication between me, or between the business side and the production side. Moving forward, the lesson we learned from that is don't announce anything until you're ready, first of all. Right, so the idea now is let's make sure that we are actually ready to say the things that we're promising before we do it. Now, that's also obviously dependent on money. If you're running out of money in 2 months, the thing has to launch in 2 months, and that's it. But if you don't have those kind of pressures, you don't have a publisher breathing down your neck, so we didn't, it's very important to try to make sure that you're not promising anything on behalf of other people on your team without actually checking properly with them. So that was our biggest mistake, I think.
I made 2 big mistakes in the beginning, and I think they're related. So my first big one was, taking on too many contracts for sure, just saying yes because I was so excited that it was successful, but not vetting properly or focusing. But one of the big problems was, I would take a contract, and for example, one of the first clients I had said, "We're planning this Kickstarter, we have this great game, and we would like you to help with our PR and our marketing." And I kind of formulated this amazing marketing and PR campaign, really starting early, connecting with the industry, all kinds of events stuff, really fun and unique campaigns. And the client that I was dealing with really was kind of disregarding my input and just telling me what to do instead of listening to me. And I knew the Kickstarter and the campaign would not be a success because we weren't doing anything creative, we weren't in any way engaging with fans. But I still did the contract. Where now, if I'm not being listened to as an expert and I don't think it's going to be a success, I'll say no for sure. And the second thing is working with assholes. I have a very strong no asshole policy. We do not work with asshole clients. If you're disrespectful, we won't work with you. And then it took me to I had to learn that, and I was like, what am I doing? So yeah, definitely those.
Excellent. Those were all quite good lessons, and I hope everyone is taking notes. And if not, I'm sure that we'll have a copy of this up online somewhere for you to see. In the interest of time and the party that awaits, let's wrap up very quickly, if you don't mind, letting people know where they can find out more information about your studio, or if you're open to it, how they can reach out to you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Julian Partners. I have a website. My contact information is on there. I love Facebook emails. You see me everywhere. I love being contacted if it's for advice, mentoring, an introduction. I'm happy to help anytime. So yeah.
For us, well, for the company, we've got Ultimate Chicken Horse on Google, and you'll find our website as the first thing that will come up. So Ultimate Chicken Horse, that hard to remember. For myself, my Twitter is @RichMixGames. So if you want to reach out through there, or my email, I'm pretty sure it's easy enough to find. Rich@cleverendev.com, but anyway, you can probably find it. So, yeah, so that's it.
As Norsfell, we're on Norsfell.com. Yeah, we own the major domain with a name like that for sure. So yeah, head over to Norsfell.com for more info. You can also grab me. We're part of Gameplay Space. We're the biggest team in Gameplay Space right now. He's also part of Gameplay Space. They left Gameplay Space. But yeah, you can always swing by. We have a ton of events happening. It's a great place to connect with people. And our community manager, Kelly, is here. So if you want to say hi to Kelly, we're growing, we're hiring, we're 12, but we need new talent. So yeah, if you're interested in a job or in an internship, come and see us.
You can find out more about our company at www.kitfoxgames.com. And we're on Twitter at Kitfox Games. You can email me at jongwoo@kitfoxgames.com. And please check out the new trailer for Boyfriend Dungeon. It's pretty good.
We should play the party later. It's awesome. It's so cool.
Can I be a weapon in your game? So compulsiongames.com for our website. We have ifugame.com. We're on Gearbox's website. I'm not sure if you can find more information about our games. Yeah. And if I could add one last note is there's a lot of developers who started studios in the city. We are all on a Cabal mailing list, and we talk. All the studio heads speak to each other several times a day. I've on occasion helped other people, and on occasion those people have helped me back. Your peers, if you start a company, is the biggest source of advice and counsel, and there's no way, whether it's a 15-minute fireside chat or 2 days of listening to people, that you'll learn as much as you do by just asking other people. And okay, I'll so another one. I've learned not to judge people by their age or experience as well. I've learned a lot from Richard, for example, and I've also learned from people that I mentored. So that was probably one of the hardest lessons to learn is, seeing all the guys from Cappy meet for the first time and bang beer and says, "We're gonna make games." And then picking up the phone 10 years later and saying, "Hey, Nathan, I'm starting a company. Do you have advice for me?" And I know that sounds really crazy, but it's one of the things that served me the most, is to know that everyone has something to share that they can teach you.
Great advice. Great advice.
How do we find you, Corina?
Oh, well, my name's Corina, and I'm at the GameDev Cafe. So GameDevCafe.com, at the GameDev Cafe. I am a fellow marketing aficionado, so if you guys are around tomorrow, I'll be a mentor in Mentor Lounge. And you can always tap my shoulder and ask a question. I have no problem. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to share your insights. I know you can't learn everything from one panel, but I think that this was a jam-packed little 5-person mentorship right here, so I learned quite a bit. I think everyone's probably eager to get to the party, so we'll wrap. And again, if you have any questions, these people have made their time available to you very graciously. Please take advantage. I have.